Delighted to say I'm joined by Graeme Mulcahy, who's fresh from well, I don't know if you're fresh from it, but you won the Limerick County title the other day. What were the celebrations like, Graeme?
They were good now, yeah. We got back to Kilmallock late in the evening, had a bit of a parade up the town. It's kind of been our tradition over the last couple of times winning it. So great to see Philip Loughlin leading us up the town. Been a great servant to the club over the last probably decade and a half. And then back to the clubhouse where the chairman and Tony Considine, the manager, would have presented us all to the people that gathered. So yeah, the celebrations were brilliant and just massive for the club.
Yeah, because it'd been a few years since you'd won it. 2017 you were last in the final, and is it 2014 that you last won it?
Yeah, 2014 we won it. We went on to the All-Ireland Club final that year and were beaten by Ballyhale, well beaten in the end in the final. And I suppose since then we kind of failed to make a breakthrough, lost a number of semi-finals, lost the final, as you said, in 17. And I suppose after losing to Doon in the semi-final last year, a lot of us were thinking like, is this curtains for us as a group? Because a lot of us now are pushing on into our 30s, and I suppose it's really been the younger generation, younger lads coming up that have added that extra bit of impetus this year to allow us to get over the line. Thank God.
And just looking at your results from the championship, I can't imagine you were thinking county title the first day out when you lost by 10 points to Napier.
No, and actually, funny enough, that was probably one of our better performances. They got two late goals that maybe put the scoreline maybe didn't really reflect the game, but against Ballybrown, certainly our year looked to be nearly over. They had a couple of goal chances in the second half that would have had us dead and buried. And in fairness, Barry Hennessy made some super saves, and they even had a 65 at the death to level the game, and that would have probably put us out of the championship. And we were lucky. The guy, Aidan O'Connor, I think, on the freeze that night was superb up to that last kind of couple of minutes, and just lucky for us, he missed that one.
And then, like, if you go on again to the South Liberties game, we'll say in the quarter final, you needed extra time there. So I'm getting this sense that there was sort of belief growing throughout the season before you got all the way to the final.
Yeah, definitely. Like they're the kind of fine lines between kind of nearly being in a relegation battle and just kind of building momentum. So we were lucky we were on the right side of that. It's kind of similar even to Limerick in 2018, and a couple of very narrow victories we had, and you just build momentum and confidence builds, and God, we kind of kept our best two performances for the semi-final and final.
Yeah, like putting up 420 against Doon in the semi-final was serious going. And then when you're playing the final, I mean, obviously you have county players on your own side, but when you see like Diarmaid Burns, Keane Lynch and Aaron Gallan as the spine of the opposition, did you get the sense going in that everyone assumed that Patrickswell were going to win and you were massive outsiders?
Yeah, I think so. Like even Patrickswell and ourselves probably hadn't been talked about being potential champions. It was the talk really was of Napier and then of the up and coming Doon team, like who'll I'd say certainly make a breakthrough in the next couple of years. But yeah, coming into the final, then I suppose there's a lot of talk about Patrickswell having the three guys, but that's something we decided just to take the focus off that completely. Like we knew we had guys that the likes of Robbie Hanleys and Aaron Costos would definitely be able to do a job and even excel past those players. But it was around the fringes really where the game was going to be won, and we knew we had strengthened it there and even guys to come off the bench. So that's what we really put our focus on.
And like it ended up being a fairly tasty final, if you know what I mean. I mean, there was plenty of hits going in. What was it like to be out there in the thick of it? Like you ended up with 7 points, man of the match, absolutely deservedly. So, but what was it like getting through that game?
Yeah, like I found it tough. The intensity was high from the off. Like, and there was a lot. It was a physical game. Had everything really. It had good hurling the day. It was a super day for the 24th of October. But yeah, I think the game had everything. Yeah.
And from your own point of view, did you feel like I know you hear some people saying you get into a zone on a certain day, and to score 7 points from playing a county final, you're obviously in some sort of a zone. But do you feel that sort of thing that people talk about when they say you're in the zone?
Yeah, definitely. Like, because I actually felt in the semi-final, probably wasn't one of my best ever performances for Kilmallock, and felt very sluggish in the day. Was probably carrying an injury into over the last number of weeks, and luckily over the last fortnight, I've kind of got that right and put a lot of focus on trying to be in the best shape as I could mentally and physically for Sunday. And luckily enough, it all just worked, and yeah, I definitely felt in the zone for a lot of it. I know the third quarter was probably our weakest 15 minutes out of the four, and it was definitely a point where maybe I felt a bit tired or felt a bit low. But yeah, once we got the momentum going again and we got into our groove, I think in the last quarter, felt definitely back in the zone again. So yeah.
Yeah, and Oisin O'Reilly, that goal he scored, that was pure quality,
Yeah.
the high catch, and like he took a fair old hit on the way in, but geez, that was a great goal.
Yeah, that was a fantastic goal. Like you talk about, I suppose, tactics and puck outs, but like it was literally a puck out that was just launched down the centre, and for him to kind of go up over his man and go up over Dermot Burns, like who's probably one of the best players in the air in the country, and grab that ball, and then, as you said, like they tried to take him out a couple of times, but he just kept going. He wasn't going to be stopped, and we really needed that goal to kind of push us on. It was kind of a tit for tat game, a point or two in it up to that, but I think that really sealed it for us. Yeah, and he's been phenomenal all year. In fairness to Oisin, yeah.
Yeah, I think he scored. Didn't he score 2-4 or something in the semi-final? Jeez, was he able to walk after the match?
No, he was sore, right? He took a few beds because he took one in the first half as well. So in fairness, he got up though after both of them and kept going.
Was it you that he did the reverse hand pass to that was called back?
Yeah, it was harsh. I think I saw it in replay, and it probably looked okay to me, but I suppose the speed of the game and the referee has to make a call there and then. It's not an easy one to spot. But it would have been it would have been a nice score to get. Certainly, like yeah.
So I remember watching you in that All Ireland final back in 2015 when Ballyhale beat you. The thing that stood out to me on the day was just, I know you just seemed to take on an awful lot of shots that weren't there from distance and probably gave Ballyhale a bit of confidence. And I don't. Sometimes it spreads throughout a team. Like one or two people hit a bad shot and then it just spreads throughout the team. And I didn't feel like that was the best we could have seen from you on the day. But anyway, it took you a long time to get back here. What do you think the reason is it took you so long to get back? And I mean, I suppose a lot of it is the Pearshikers have been so strong.
Yeah, definitely. Like I suppose we took such a beating in that All Ireland club final. Maybe the confidence that probably knocked the confidence out of us a bit. I suppose it was a long campaign as well, and guys probably were fatigued after it. And then you had Napier really come to the fore, and Patrickswell as well coming to the fore, like with the youth that they brought through over the last kind of 5 or 6 years, Keane and the guys. So yeah, we found it difficult. While we were competitive and we were always thereabouts, and we never really had that extra bit of I suppose panel depth really to get us over the line, and that's something we've added this year. Even with the likes of say like Paddy O'Loughlin, and my brother Jake, like who would have been super players for us over the last few years, not committing this year's for their own personal reasons. Like with those guys, you'd say, like with the last of those guys, you'd say it's going to be very difficult for us to get back to the top table. But in fairness, we found youth in guys like Liam English and David Wolfe and Kieran O'Connor, like guys that would have been, I suppose, around the fringes for the last number of years, but they've really stepped it up this year and really became senior members.
And will the likes of Jake and Paddy O'Loughlin, is there a chance of them being involved for the rest of the season, or have they just stepped away for the entire year?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. That's probably their own decision. Like we'd obviously welcome everyone back with open arms, because I suppose it's a new campaign going into a Munster club now. Like we would need everyone you can have, even for competitiveness in training. Like we have a month or even 6 week gap to a club semi-final, so you'd find it hard to get challenge matches. So having good competitive 15 on 15s within our own training would be key.
Yeah, absolutely. And how big of an influence has Tony Considine been? I mean, he's obviously been there previously as well.
Yeah, Tony's practically a Kilmallock man now at this stage. Like he's there in 2010 to 2013, won 2 counties, and like I suppose he just knows the club inside out. He knows the people of the town inside out, and so he knows exactly what he's going to get from us. And he kind of just trusts us to go out and on the day perform and even make our own decisions on the field. He puts that trust in us. So yeah, I think it's a good relationship there between Tony and us as players.
Yeah. And when that final whistle went on Sunday, and you're getting the photos taken and you have your baby in there and all that kind of stuff, what's your memory of the full-time whistle and the celebrations?
Yeah, I suppose I was whisked off initially for the Man of the Match award and being on TV, like, and I suppose I probably missed out on some of the guys celebrating together on the field. So my first memory is probably just after those interviews, just grabbing my baby Rosha from my partner Laura, and then I suppose just walking onto the field to meet the rest of the guys and celebrate. And they're just fantastic memories to have, all of us there with a number of lads there with their children, like, and past players and future generations on the field. And that's exactly what club championship's all about.
Yourself and your club teammate Barry Hennessy are used to getting pictures with the babies and cups at this stage.
They've had a good couple of months now. They're both only 3 and 4 months old, so I think they probably think this happens all the time. But
how do you reflect on your own year? I mean, you started previous All Irelands. You weren't starting in the final this year, so I mean, I would have said 2018. I'd have given you hurler of the year. I think I said that to you before. Maybe it didn't quite happen for you earlier this year, and then obviously you're back to that form in the county final there. But what was your year like for Limerick?
Yeah, it was a difficult one. I kind of initially was laid off with a groin injury at the start of the year, got back, and then actually did a nice job on my ankle. So missed another probably 6 weeks preparation for championship with that. Didn't play, I think only a couple of minutes of league. But yeah, I worked hard and got back in for the Munster final. In fairness, John and the guys put faith in me to do a job in the Munster final, but that didn't work out for me either. So probably fell back down the pecking order behind the 3 boys in the full forward line. But yeah, I think I just worked hard to try and, I suppose, put as much pressure as I could on the other guys in the lead up to the final. And yeah, I think it still went well for me in training and got my appearances in the semi-final and final. So yeah, I was just happy to play a part in the end. Yeah, and next year's a new year again, and I'll push on again and try and compete as best I can.
Yeah, that's obviously a good few months away at this stage, and you still have Kilmallock duty in the meantime. But there's a couple of injuries in your position also, Barry Murphy and Peter Casey. So you'd imagine a little bit more pressure will be going on your shoulders to step into that position again next year. But I'm sure you're only delighted with that. Sure, pressure at this stage, you've kind of done it all, so I'm sure it doesn't get you.
Yeah, it's just another opportunity like that I still have to put the work in to try and take it. And like Barry and Peter, they'll both be back in around May, June time, like in time for championship, hopefully. I mean, they'll be able to compete for that position as well. And like, I'm sure John and the management team will be looking at bringing in some other guys maybe to support the last of those guys in the league, and those guys can make a difference too. There's a lot of young talent coming through again in Limerick, which is great to see. So yeah, it won't be a straightforward battle for that position.
How old is Micheál Houlihan? I'm just thinking about guys who could be called up. I know Oisin O'Reilly was in there before, and then there's obvious guys like Cathal O'Neill, and I know he's very young, but Adam English, like, there's serious talent there in Limerick.
Oh, there is, yeah. Like Micheál is about 24 or 5, I think, and yeah, like you've seen, he's just a super player, like super stick work and wrists, and I suppose, like, we all know his dad, Mike Houlihan, was a great servant to Limerick and to Kilmallock, like, and what a hurler he was. But we're so happy for Micheál to kind of, I suppose, step out of that shadow and make his own history on Sunday. And he's definitely a player that can go on to bigger things.
I just have a Limerick jersey here, one of the vintage from the 90s, and I'm wondering what player or what comes to mind when you see that jersey?
Yeah, I suppose like Mike Houlihan and Dave Clark's really come to mind for me, and even my uncle Donald, he was on that Limerick panel in '94, so I would have had actually one of those jerseys at home from his playing days. So yeah, they're the kind of guys, my clubmen, and then the likes of Kieran Carey obviously come to most fellas' minds when you see that jersey.
Yeah, and who were your heroes growing up on, presumably on the Limerick team and not on other county teams?
Yeah, well, definitely, like myself and my brother Jake would have always went to Kilmallock club training. We'd been only begging my parents just to let us up to the field to watch them play, and the likes of Dave Clarks and Mike Houlihan's, Padge Tobin, Donald Barry, like, these are the guys we kind of really looked up to. But I suppose outside in our back garden, and people probably won't admire me too much for saying this, but myself and my brother Jake would always be pretending to be the Pilkington brothers or the Dooley brothers. In our commentary, we'd be fighting over which one we were. So yeah.
What was it about that team? I mean, the fact that they took you down in '94. I mean, that's
maybe that was it, and we just heard the names and they kind of just stuck in our head, and yeah, we used to be just thrilled to be out pretending to be those people in our back garden.
Yeah, when we were doing the show on Monday, there was a couple of comments in saying that was Dave Clark's son. It was the guy who came in and hit 2 points. Was it with the double barrel surname?
Yeah, Connor. So, yeah, Connor's been kind of knocking around the fields, I'd say, since he was 4 and 5 years of age when we were training. Back in winning counties in 2010, like he was only a young fella. Like, so to see him come on yesterday and just got 2 balls with 2 minutes to go and nail both of them. One of them from probably 90 yards. So yeah, just delighted for him. Like,
Well, what's the background to the nickname, the Ballback? Somebody also put a comment in the show saying something to do with some writer from the 1850s or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with a town in the Lebanon that is similar, kind of reflects the even, I suppose, the architecture of the town or something. There's some links to the Lebanon anyway. Yeah, I'd have to look into it more. But
I shouldn't have put you on the spot. I should have
Yeah.
said that to you beforehand. But John Kiley's staying on anyway. He's down for a couple more years. How important is it? Like, because you just have such a great thing rolling there at the moment. It's probably important to keep everyone together.
I know, yes, it's such a positive environment in there, and obviously, like, with the likes of John and Paul Kinnock, Sean O'Donnell, these guys, like, they bring so much to the table. I think it's very important that continuity is there for the next couple of years while you have that bunch of players together. Because I suppose there will be a time when another team will be on top. Like, so we kind of have to make the most of what we have at the moment.
Do you think people sometimes get the wrong end of the stick in terms of like the amount of commitment involved? Like, it is obviously huge time commitment every single week, but I'd imagine the enjoyment you get, especially when you're playing, because it is all about playing at the end of the day, but like that you get so much out of it too.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I suppose it's difficult when you're not really winning or not competing, like towards the start of the 2010s decade there. That was difficult because you're given the same commitment and you're probably not getting as much out of it. But definitely over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, like since we've become successful, then it makes it a lot easier to make that commitment, and you don't really even see it as a commitment.
Am I right in saying that you made your debut during the era of the strikes, and God, just how different things are now compared with then?
Yeah, I was there actually made my debut the year before the strikes, and then the strike was in 2010. I decided just to stay on and I suppose just get some experience under my belt. And I felt that was important for me and worked well for me over the next couple of years after that. Yeah, but it was a tough period for Limerick. But luckily, like we're through it now and out the other side of it.
Yeah. Could you ever believe that you could have gone on to this kind of level of success considering where you started out?
I suppose, yeah, back in 2013-14 things were looking good too, but then I suppose we had a couple of down years that things didn't happen for us again, and towards kind of 2017 we were beaten by Clare and by Kilkenny in the championship, and really we're kind of looking on thinking like, yeah, are we ever going to really have success or win in All-Ireland? And yeah, luckily 2018 it just happened, just clicked.
Yeah, I like to do a little Q&A with people, quick fire questions. Answer them as short or as long as you like, but I'll just go through them. What do you remember of your first time ever at Croke Park?
First time ever in Croke Park, I think we played a league game against Dublin, but I suppose my real first memory of Croke Park was back in kind of 2007. I went to the minor. The Limerick were in the minor and the senior final, and I just remember just watching that minor final, looking on, and I know Galway beat Limerick on the day, but in awe of like my club and the likes of John Kelly and Brian O'Sullivan, Owen Ryan, who were supermen. Like, yeah, just being in awe of them.
Favorite player of all time?
Andrew Shaughnessy.
Yeah, he was a great player. Who's what's the toughest opponent you've had?
I'd have to say, just I suppose from marking him a lot in the club game and even in inter-county training, I have to say Rich English.
Okay.
Yeah, you learn it off him. Telling you come out of training, it's black and blue after him.
What's the team you most like to beat?
To beat?
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, there's a good rivalry between Limerick and Clare, Limerick and Tips, Limerick and Cork. But I suppose as living down in Cork, I suppose it's always nice to beat Cork. Just makes it easier for my week at work.
What's your proudest day playing GAA? This could be club, county, college, whatever.
Well, definitely the Munster Club final in 2014. I think we played SARS in the semi-final, went to extra time, beat them, and then had an absolutely outstanding game against Cratloe. Probably one of the greatest club games in the last probably 20 years, and to come out the other side of that was just fantastic day for all of us.
What's your favourite stadium?
I'd have to say actually Páirc Uí Chaoimh, since it's been redeveloped. I think it's a lovely stadium, and I think the fields, even we played there last year against Tip in the pouring rain, and the field was just still immaculate, and it's just a beautiful surface and a beautiful stadium.
Yeah, I can't believe you brought that game up. I didn't want to talk about that one. What's the biggest disappointment of your career?
It's a difficult one, but I suppose probably losing the club final in 2015 Patrickswell. I know we brought it up already, but probably didn't show up fully on the day. Probably were a bit naive. Kilkenny, I suppose, they had the likes of Shefflin and TJ Reid, who'd been kind of winning All-Irelands with Kilkenny and had that experience of the big day in Club Park, and that was something maybe we didn't have. And on the day it just didn't happen for us, and it was very disappointing.
Who's the joker on the panel, on the Limerick panel?
On the Limerick panel, Pat Ryan from Doon, 100%. Yeah.
Well, why? What is it about him?
He's just a laughing minute. He's just a character.
Yeah, maybe it's I think there's Burris Lee blood in him there somewhere. I think that could be it.
He won't like hearing that now.
Who's the best trainer?
The best trainer on the panel. A lot of good guys in fairness. I'd have to say maybe the first fellow that kind of comes to mind is probably Barry Nash for me. He's always going to be one of the first fellas out in the field. Like, we could be training at 7, he'd be on the field at 6 o'clock, probably doing his own bits and pieces beforehand. And so as you can see, like, he's made the change from playing probably corner forwards a couple of years ago in 15, 16 to wing forward, to wing back, and now to corner back. And to make that transition from one end of the field to the other like that takes a lot of effort on the field and off the field. And I'd have to say Barry has been fantastic over the last couple of years.
We're going to ask who's the best dressed, and then obviously who's the worst dressed.
Best dressed probably. So Seamus Flanagan, he puts in a lot of effort into his appearance, and he has his own clothing brand as well. So I'd have to give that to him.
Not hectic, is that what it's called?
Not hectic, yeah. So shout out for Seamus there. And worst dressed, that's a difficult one. I think I'll leave that one off.
Okay. Who thinks the women loves them?
Geez, these are tough questions. I have to go probably Seamus again there. Yeah.
Okay. And just a couple more. What player from another sport do you admire?
I suppose first one that came to my mind there when you talked about it is probably Giannis for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Some job to pronounce his surname.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that a pass as well. and to the Kumpo, I think.
That was pretty close. What manager from another sport do you admire?
David Moyes. I suppose I'm a West Ham fan myself, so I think the impact he's made in the club over the last couple of years, coming in first as a kind of caretaker manager, and then coming back in for his second stint, and I suppose the players he's brought in and the unity he seems to have brought to that team has made a huge difference over the last couple of years, and they're really pushing for a top 4 place this year, and they're flying in the Europa League as well. So I think he's done a fantastic job. Yeah,
not too many say David Moyes. Can't believe it. After what happened with United, I'm surprised. Yeah, he has done well. Look, you've been very good with your time, Graeme. Really, really appreciate you joining me, and best of luck in the Munster Club Championship.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Shane. Thanks for having me.